The image I can't get out of my head is the no vendors involved guy, and his AI turns out to be two outsourced call centers manually shipping WAV files back and forth. A human factory wearing an AI costume. One question, what's your stack? And the whole thing falls apart.
Welcome back to Founder Mode,
where we go behind the grind with real conversations for founders and operators building the future.
It's just the two of us, no guest, no filter.
And this might be my favorite kind of episode because everything we're talking about actually happened to us in the last week. Kevin picked a fight with an entire industry from a conference stage. I rebuilt my email signature to look like I run a conglomerate. And somewhere in between, we actually figured out where the money in AI is.
Yeah, spoiler, it's not where everyone's looking.
Okay, Kevin, let's start with the fight. You went to HCCCT. I think there's too many C's. There's a lot of C's in it. This is big call center conference. You get up on stage and what did you say?
Yeah, so it's funny, like basically people were not selling AI, right? And most people that came off stage, I was just like, oh, what's your stack? What are you using? And no one could answer the question. He's like, oh, it's a question for my CTO, or like, I'm not really sure. I think we're using this wrapper. And I was like, and I kind of made this joke of like, man, there's all these companies in here that have been around for 25, 30, 40, 50 years. And, you know, they've just tried to add AI on top. And when it comes to it, they don't even know, the people that were speaking didn't know what AI they were using. I was just like, oh, what model are you using? And then one guy, he is like, oh, I'm not going to talk about vendors. And I was like, cool, that's cool. And then afterwards I come offer him like, oh man, that was really good talk. Like very passionate. You did some cool stuff. How did it work? And he's like, oh, well, actually we had a BPO, which is like business process outsourced, like an outsourced call center that was manually downloading the WAV files and shipping them to another team that was then manually running it. And then they were like then giving him insights and that was their AI. And I was like, wait a minute, this is like a human factory of like data analysis.
Yeah.
And so
wasn't there another one? There was another one you mentioned that was like they were using like the out of the box open AI stuff?
They were using like Bland or Vappy, like one of these kind of like wrapper call stack things, and they were just like, oh wait, so that didn't work. And then another one came up and says, oh, they're using OpenAI voice mode, and I was like, oh, that's why it's so slow because there's no way to make tool calls, and like so it was just like comical, but also like just the state of where AI is so like peeling like the lightest cover of the onion away, like reveals this just incredible sort of like, you know, the emperor's wearing no clothes kind of thing where it was like, oh man, there's just a bunch of pieces missing here. So I don't know, like it was just, to me, it was super interesting.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like the disqualifier in AI now, right? Like if the answer that a CEO gives you after they come off stage at a talk is, oh, that's a question for my CTO, then they're not actually they're not an AI company, right?
And they're not using it themselves. And so like it was tough, but it's also, you know, interesting. And it was just a simple way to sort of like what I thought was like, to me, like a cool, like easy question. Hey man, like, you know, what color's your booth? You know, red or blue? It's funny. Everybody had blue booths. We had one pink booth, but
blue is a safe color. As a brand guy, I can tell you always blue makes you feel safe. Red is like, oh, what's happening? It's an alert.
But it was great. I think that it was a pink. They had a pink backdrop, and they all wore like pink blazers. It was kind of like a pot. Like you knew where they were everywhere on the conference. It was kind of a cool
smart
look.
So I think, you know, pretty good AI highlighter
company,
yellow.
They were renting humans.
Yeah, renting humans. See, that's not good. But the highlighter yellow and the pretty good AI colors for your brand, that's a good pop color. That's nobody uses that. So today's episode, I think, if we kind of tie this up to what the story you just told and what you just experienced in the past week, and I think you just said it's the AI emperor has no stack. Like, and why being right about that doesn't automatically make you successful either. Like the real leverage is not building the brain, building the nervous system. What happens when the AI wave crashes into your payroll and you're like just using people to push things around? Like, and then how to look bigger than you are without actually lying. Like I think something I, you know, did this week, we'll talk about it, whether it's good or bad. It's like, just, you know, you can flex, but do it when you actually have something to flex about. And I think we got a lot of meat there on the bone, and I'm excited to do another one of these with just you.
Yeah, let's do it. I think it'll be exciting.
All right. So let's start with one of these topics. We talk about like the idea of building the nervous system, not the brain, in one of our recent chats, right? So not fighting over, oh, who's got the latest foundation model. And literally yesterday, Fable came out, Fable 5 from Anthropic. So like the kind of giants are driving raw intelligence to zero. And there's an idea that wealth is going to collect in the wiring. So maybe, you know, you are way deeper on this stuff than I am. Talk about your thoughts on like, you know, latest and greatest foundation models versus building the right systems and using the right tools, and like how that ladders up to the moment that we're in with AI.
Yeah. So I think two things thinking back, I think when we first talked about it, it was this tweet that I saw, of a clip from Mark Cuban on TBPN when he was just basically saying, look, man, there's 33 million companies out there, a small fraction of them are going to build God, right? AI, AGI, foundation AGI, all of these things. And honestly, that's where, quite frankly, a lot of the conversation here in Silicon Valley, people are like grinding on and excited about. But I think his thing was the opportunity is everything else. It's like the manufacturing, the healthcare, all the places where they hardly have an IT team, let alone like AI engineers, prompt engineers to go after this. And I think the takeaway for him was like, man, if you're coming out of college or you're looking for a new opportunity to start a company, is really go into these places that are these, sort of gritty, unglamorous businesses and apply technology to them. One of my, close friends, JJ and I from Instacart, Neelam, he started this company called Beacon Software. They just raised a huge round today. I think it's a Series C or Series D, but I mean, their whole model is very that. They just go and acquire Main Street businesses. Some of them are, SaaS, some of them are non-digital, and then they just apply technology and AI to them. And it's like, it's been scaling in an incredible form. And in a sense, like way less competition than trying to be like, oh, I'm going to, be the next, foundational model that's going to pop the next big thing. And so I think, again, the zoom out there is like, how do you build the things that allow these foundational sort of godlike AGI models to get into these, kind of unglamorous businesses? And really the moat is sort of understanding the business, how to go apply it. Because I was talking to another founder and they were so passionate they trained their own model. They're like, oh, we spent all this time training this model and we have all this data. And it's like, okay, well, that's cool. But like literally with zero work, I can take the same prompt for 99% of the queries and actually get a faster answer back from Claude or ChatGPT itself, just OpenAI. And so you're like, wait a minute, like, why did you train your own model? The actual foundation models are smart enough. And unless you're doing like incredibly hard things, it usually doesn't matter. And so I think would love to flip, to your side. And I know that some of the companies you're building, and we'll talk about the signature, to kind of list them all out, but your email signature, holdco conglomerate. But walk me through maybe Frank, because I think that one in theory is sort of trying to do the same thing for paid ads.
Yeah. So like just to close the thought on what you just said, I think there's a lot of debate over who has the best model and who's building the best thing and whether we need to like train our own thing or use the latest and greatest. And we've talked a lot about this, and I know you and your partner JJ talk a lot about it. And I'll just say like, man, I don't get half of it because I'm not as smart as you guys, right? But what I do get, what I do understand is like, and this is something you say all the time, AI is your smartest friend. And as soon as you start treating it that way, you end up kind of learning faster and doing more than the average person because like most people are not operating that way. And so, the thing that I've realized as a consultant over the past 7 years of consulting, like almost 5 doing it full time, is that even AI and like Claude is a better consultant than me. Like it just knows all the knowledge of the world. And so like, what do I bring that's unique and an interesting kind of vantage point and skill? And so in the context of Frank, which is this agentic marketing agency that I'm building, it's that I have 20 plus years of doing marketing and being a CMO and an individual contributor on marketing teams and like knowing, I started my career in Google doing Google ads. So like I know what good looks like when it comes to running campaigns. And so AI doesn't have taste yet, really. It's still, we haven't reached God level AGI, ASI. And so like there's a lot of things it can do, but it's not great at like understanding what a good marketing campaign looks like and does. It does a pretty good job of pattern matching to get you close to that. But I think I have the ability to train a set of agents and kind of the robots, if you will, to be the people that I used to hire at marketing agencies.
And I think a lot of it's error correction, right? Like when you're managing a team and you see a bunch of marketing stuff, you're like, oh, 90% good. It's the 10% that like, we don't want to like keep that in the next rev. How do we remove that 10% or tweak that? And if you don't correct that early, AI will just hallucinate its way to oblivion saying, oh, I'm going to believe this wrong or false stat or this inappropriate thing.
Yeah, I think that's right. And for me, it's like it's error correction plus, and because I'm a brand guy and I like marketing, it's like taste. It's like fix the errors. And, we've done a lot of talking on the show about third-party harnesses and like the agentic workflows and system design now. And I think really what we're just saying, and like with all these companies I'm starting, and I put them in air quotes because it's like I'm really just trying to build systems, and you've taught me probably more than anybody about system building, where it's like, let's just put all the AI agents on the board in the right place and teach them the patterns to repeat over and over again such that they can effectively do it, which, by the way, is the same thing you do when leading a team, right? It's like,
No
and
different.
so we're just swapping in, where we can, agentic workers for human ones. And it's not a one for one a lot of the time, and that's okay. But I think, let's talk about this kind of tech stack idea, right? So, at the conference, you tried to pull back the curtain, and the emperor had no stack. Like there's this whole generation of AI vendors who are, I think, not coming at it the way you and I are talking about it, right? They're saying, what can I do to slap AI on the name of my product, the name of my company, the features that we have, and get away with it so more people buy my stuff, versus like, how can I authentically learn about this and build it, or be an AI native company, AI first, like you're, one of your companies you're building right now, we talk a lot about, like, that is an AI first team, that everything you're doing is approaching it using AI and like first principles. So from your kind of vantage point here, what is the right set of things that if a founder listening right now is like, okay, I want to create an AI first company, I want to create an AI native company, what do I do? Where do I start? And then I think the second part of that question is, okay, for the other founders that were on the other waves, they're Web 2 guys, they're crypto guys, they're doing stuff, guys and girls they started a company that pre-AI, and now they really want to use AI properly. Like, what is your guidance to them?
Yeah, it's interesting. And I think on one of our previous podcasts, Joe Spicer talked about this a lot, about like, how do you get AI to a team that is doing something where they're not clear or not sure how to use AI to do their job, right? Like, it's very easy to default to the old model. And I think what we've seen and encouraged, and I think we've seen this, it's, a search engine journal where historically it was like a lot of like manual campaign building, a lot of manual editing, and a lot of just manual work to sort of deliver the work. And I think in a version of it, it looks like kind of this supercharged marketing team where they're building tons of campaigns for different enterprises. And it was like a lot of the things we were doing, it's like, oh, we go, get stats from this data, merge it with this data, generate a report, and then, send a report. And we started with just a really simple thing of like, well, let's just take the report that we have and just like make it look better. Or maybe we should like run it one more time and have, AI tell us how we should put a chart in there or a graph, or like make it more visual or more impactful. And then it was like, okay, that worked. And then you work backwards. You're like, wait, can it also just fetch the data and do that? And then can it do that faster and quicker and better? And can it do that at more scale? Like, hey, we're only doing it for some campaigns. Can we do it for all campaigns? And very quickly, we figured out that, in some cases, a majority of a person's job is now essentially automated. And because of that, you're like, okay, well, then what do they do next? It's like, well, oh, there's other things that they can do, either that we didn't have time to do that were more bespoke or more custom before, that now we can do and then add to the process, and that thing becomes automated. And so I think, to me, it was this piece of like injecting this notion that like you need to at least ask the question of like, how could I do this better? How could I make this look prettier? The new sort of Fable model came out, and I think, you're dumping stuff in there, and it's like, damn, it draws pretty good stuff. And I was talking to JJ, and we're like, it's really going to make an
PDF you sent me today was beautiful. I was like, Kevin, you're the designer now.
Correct. And it was like, the HTML is very easy to make.
Yeah.
But then what you figure out is you're like, well, just tell it to make PDF. And then it's like, oh, well, the formatting's not right, or the page breaks aren't right. And then you're like, no, just run that again and keep looking at it and fixing it. And eventually it's like, damn, it made a beautiful 3-page PDF. To kind of fix all the formatting, idiosyncrasies. And so I think the zoomed out version of this is no matter where you are in the journey, I think, Pretty Good AI is like kind of on one end where it's like, it was a fresh company. We started it from zero with the idea that, ChatGPT existed the day we started the company, where other companies that have been around for 10, 20 years, migrating to this, more AI native or more AI sort of first, has been a challenge, right? And I think sometimes people just don't know where to start. And so, two vectors we've seen work. One is like the output of your work when you're done, just ask AI if it could improve it. That's a simple one. And then the other side of it is when you're starting and you're saying, hey, when I sit down to go do something, I log into 3 different things. How could you have those 3 things logged in with Codex or Claude, where it just can pull that data? And so those are the 2 places where we've seen like workflows sort of like the light bulb goes off. And then they're like, wow, wait a minute. It can make the thing I'm doing better. That's awesome. And then it can actually get me started. And then very quickly that comes together, and getting you started and ending becomes one sort of uniform workflow. And that has been mind blowing. And so I'm curious, like in your work, I'm sure like way busier with proposals and first drafts and second drafts and reviewing stuff. I'm curious like how you've seen a similar thing either with your business or your clients.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I want to talk about that. The last question I have for you on this topic before we lose the thread on it, and then I'll share my kind of current AI stack for generating client proposals. Is I should have asked you a three-part question. What do you do if you're a founder and you're starting an AI native company from nothing, from zero, like what you guys just did with PGA? And what do you do if you're like trying to bolt it on later and do it in an authentic and like actually credible way? And the third one is actually for all the CEOs and the folks that you just saw at this conference, and all these guys are like, my company has to be AI now. Like for these 20, 30-year-old companies, if you could like shake them and get them to hear you, what should they actually do, Kevin?
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing is they need to figure out how to measure what they're doing and what they're actually trying to achieve. And I think it's funny because, 2 hours ago, I was talking to a CEO of a pretty large private equity backed business. And all these people are looking at metrics, right? But historically, they're looking at what happened last week, last month, last quarter. And with AI, you have this opportunity now to look forward and say, what do I want next quarter to be? And rather than just setting an OKR or a goal, work one level down and say, oh, for that thing to happen, I need to do these other things. Well, those things typically would have required me to roll out this new team or hire new people. And now it's like, no. You can actually just, if you have AI embedded in your business, you can say, oh, take the agentic stuff that I'm doing and point it at those KPIs and say, hey, I want, call volume to go down. I want patient satisfaction to go up. I want revenue collection to go through that. And it's
And what
not
would I
the
need to
old
do
way
to
where you're
make
like,
that
oh, I want to
true?
collect more revenue,
Yeah.
send more emails. It's like, no, like meet people where they are. If it's like I'm having a conversation with them anyways and say, oh, by the way, should you pay your bill? You wanted the link to pay your bill? You notice you haven't paid your bill before you come in for your next appointment. Like pretty simple stuff. If you layer that in more intelligently, and AI can do that without sort of this robotic sort of like, click a button and just mass email everybody again that their bills due.
Yeah. So your question about like how am I using AI in my stack, since I run a services business, is my main thing. And the answer is everywhere I possibly can, right? Like I have a third-party harness that I use as my chief of staff. I won't say which one because I don't need to have an attack vector from the podcast, but using one of these, the Perplexity computers, the OpenClaws, the Claude Dispatch, etc. I've got stuff going all the time running in the background, helping me. And then we're talking about how today we're playing around with Fable, which launched yesterday, which dates us on this podcast. I don't know when it's coming out, but it won't be yesterday when this episode comes out, but we're playing with
It'll
Fable.
be 5.1 or something.
Yeah,
by
it'll
then, or
be,
5.2.
some new word like Mythos, a launch edition. So, I'm using it to generate my it's my sparring partner when I'm on a call. So let's say I'm doing a client call and Fireflies is hanging out in there and I've got an AI transcript of the call, and then I've got all the back and forth with that prospect that I'm doing over email, and I've got Slack messages with my team, and then my AI is doing what AI does best, which is summarizing all that information and repeating back to me like, here's everything we've learned about this person, this business, whatever. Here's what they need. Here are their pain points that they've identified. And then I use my human brain to think, okay, and sometimes in the call, I might even say something smart that the Fireflies had picked up on. And that starts to become the bones of what is a proposal. And I'll create an outline that usually starts as like a Google Doc, again, generated by AI, of the things I think. And people who like using Whisperflow, I use Siri a lot on my phone, but basically just like talking to the computer wherever I am, whatever I'm doing, to get my thoughts into the machine. And then it combines that with what we've heard and learned, and it spits out this like rough straw man of a proposal. I refine that and I go back and forth with AI, whether it's through this third-party harness or in the Claude AI interface or Cowork or Code, wherever I'm working that day for whatever reason. And depending on the complexity of the proposal and the things I want to build, I choose the surface too. So it's like if I want to do like a cool visualization of stuff, I might be using Claude Code. If I'm just trying to build a deck, Cowork is great. And if I just need to make a doc, I might just be in the Claude Web AI thing interface. And so those are kind of some brief ideas around it. And then finally, I think what I've done recently, and I was inspired by our mutual friend Brent, who was just on the show. His firm does these beautiful, proposal websites, and I've done them before. But mine, after seeing his, I was like, oh, his are kind of good. And so I'm from several friends now who have businesses who do these kind of AI generated HTML proposals. I'm starting to cobble together what the new template is going to be for ours. And it's kind of great, right? Like I just pitched one yesterday, and it's this like interactive website. It's something that involves some performance marketing spend plus like some people on the team. And so we had sliders in it where you could choose the amount of budget, and it dynamically updates the amounts. And so it's really cool. And then it's just password protected, and that person can send it to somebody. And instead of it being a boring PDF deck or a boring Google Doc, it was like this interactive dynamic thing. And I didn't write any code, and I don't write code, but the AI built this beautiful proposal based on that. And so, like, long story short, using AI at every possible surface to transcribe my meetings, to spar with me on ideas, and to build the actual proposal into like a nice, beautiful HTML website, much like the PDF you shared with me that you just built for something you're working on that you use Fable for. And like, it's awesome, right? Like it just reduces the amount of time it takes to make really clear work. And then as long as you're not just throwing up AI slop and not reading it, and you're actually taking the time to read what it wrote and tune it and keep going back, do it again until you get it right, it can be good, right?
Yeah, it's pretty good. And I think the magic, of that sort of process that you're describing, and I think it's also something I've talked with a bunch of friends, is like it becomes a little addictive. Because in the old days, it's like, oh, you'd do some work or you'd work on a draft and you'd pass it to a teammate. And that teammate would be like, oh, okay, I'm going to take a day or a few hours to get back to you. And now it's like a minute, few minutes sometimes, maybe 10 minutes if it's a really long query. You can get back to work way faster. And so you constantly are in this like, oh, I just want to run one more prompt or one more thing to sort of push it forward. And so I think that ends up being this sort of like loop that you find yourself in. And then to me, it's like, how do you have multiple of those going at the same time? So as you're asking things, you're like working on, this kind of ultimate multitasking, right? Where you don't have to keep the context or memory. People always say like, multitasking is terrible. I don't know. With AI, it's kind of good because like each of these threads kind of maintains context, and you can come back to it in an hour, a day, a week. Still kind of there and keeps cooking. So I don't know. I'd probably have time for like one more. Which one do you want to jump to next?
Let's talk about this new weird AI category. I feel like we texted about it. We saw a tweet. Was it Pump Fun or something? Pump Fun?
Yeah.
And like I texted you, and I think I said, well, this will end badly. And it's funny, your response was what? It was like, oh, we can go visit all of our prospects. Like, it's like you immediately were like, how can I use this for work? And then I think about the rent a human thing, and it's just like this category of like, now it's flipping. It's, the Ubers and Instacarts, which you know very well, where you were, humans renting humans. But like AI can rent humans and we can rent other humans, and like, where's this going? Is it going to end badly or is it going to end good, Kevin? I mean, let's have an honest conversation about it.
Yeah, no, like with all things, many times new technology or new capabilities are used for bad first, right? The internet and Bitcoin and crypto were used to sell drugs and illicit things well before they were like generating lots of e-commerce value, right? And I think there's a version of like, rent a human, and it's not any different than like the TaskRabbits of the world or Thumbtack kind of things where it's like, hey, I need somebody to come over and hang a picture or hang a TV or, fix my roof or, unclog a toilet, right? I think a lot of those tasks, there's marketplaces for those type of tasks. And I think the difference now is that with AI, you can start to imagine like even more fractionalized things like, hey, come pick this thing up or come do this delivery. I mean, Uber's been moving boxes around forever. And it's like, well, hey, now if I could kick off an AI to say, hey, go visit, 35 or 40 locations of prospects that I'm sort of talking to and drop off a flyer or drop off lunch or drop off like a gift basket, right? Like Edible Arrangements has been doing this for a while. Now that if you could prompt your way to be able to do that and, your AI has either the, approval capacity to spend and buy something, or is it actually linked to something else? I think that's where it becomes useful, right? Where it's like, wouldn't it be cool to have, it's the whole notion of like, you've seen these services where it's like, I'd send an email and it turns it into a handwritten letter and emails you a handwritten letter. I think you've gotten them before.
Yeah.
I know I have.
Yeah.
And wouldn't that be cool if you could say, handwritten the letter and then hand deliver it to somebody, right? So it's like, it's like, wouldn't it be cool if I could send a prompt to say, go drop off this handwritten letter at Jason's house?
Yeah.
Right now.
My philosophy on this is that if AI and robotics take the marginal cost of doing most things in the world to zero. Like it just becomes like we enter this world of abundance. Elon talks about it all the time. It's like everything's going to get really inexpensive. It's, I hope that all this stuff is right. Like the accelerationism, like it's going to bring this huge efficiency frontier, and singularity is going to be good for us. But then the question is, what do all the people do? And like there's universal basic income and other things. But I think this is an interesting one, right? Because like it's going to be a long time. And it's going to be never where humanoid robots replace the feeling, I think, of being across from a human like we are right now, even though we're virtual, like, and talking to another human being, like whether it's an AI synthetic, and you and I've talked a lot about AI video technology, or an AI in person inside of a robot that's got real looking skin. It's just, and I talked about this with somebody else just in the last 24 hours, like the premium cost of interacting with a human, I think, is actually going to go up. Like, I think that's going to be the thing that's prized and that white glove service. So the question is like, will this kind of business, and you tell me what you think of this, will this kind of business where you can rent a human actually become a premium thing where it's like, oh, they actually took the time. Their AI SDR didn't call me. Their AI voice didn't answer the phone. They had a real person that came and handed me this note that Kevin personally wrote.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
I think it's possible. I also don't know,
wrong.
like for certain things, premium matters. I mean, there's things today I'm sure that you choose to pay more for, and there's things that you're like, well, I'm just buying it because it's a commodity, and I'm actually, if anything, optimizing on the lowest cost. And I know I've done that many times to a fault, but I think like there is this notion of like, what are the things that will become premium, and then what are the sort of experiences? We've always talked about this experience versus things, and like in the new world, if AI sort of starts to do a lot of the monotonous, boring things, what are the things that humans get excited for? Well, they get excited for entertainment, right? Can I go to a live show? Can I go experience something? I went to a live show in Vegas a few weeks back for a concert, and it was insane because it was in the Allegiant Stadium, and we saw the Super Bowl, and I was like, Super Bowl was pretty packed and pretty hyped. That's a pretty hyped event in the US. And this concert blew it away. Way more diligent fans, way more, sort of like passionate thing. And like AI couldn't create the sort of energy in that room, right? Like it's just a very human and sort of like tied thing. So I do think that those types of things will be hard to replicate with AI, or people won't, they will start to choose that. And it was the concert sold out in 23 minutes or something ridiculous, right? And like we bought tickets obviously in secondary. I wasn't there between one of the first 23 minutes.
Oh.
But I think there is this, sort of delightfulness of having things that are still real. I think it's cool to do this, like this podcast, to do it live. And
we talked about using AI versions
Oh.
of us to do it, and we still haven't done it because it's like, it's just not the same.
Yeah, it's not the same.
All right, so I think that's a solid one. The only thing we didn't talk about, Kevin, and I'll just throw it in as a fun button at the end in case the editors want to keep it in, is my silly flex where I added all my companies to my email signature, and you teased me about it. I think the right way to do this, again, going to your moments on stage, tying this all together, and my, I'm starting AI companies, trying to be cool like you, is don't puff your chest if you don't have the tech and the team to back it up, right? Like if you are building real stuff with real technology and you're doing things that either other people aren't doing or you're doing them in novel ways, then like, there's a way to be humble and still say like, hey, I'm doing this cool stuff, come check it out. And that's what, I literally put like, here, I got this consulting firm, I have this agentic agency, I have this AI video agency, and I'm working on this little AI vibe coded app studio. And I'm honest with people, and I'm just like, look, I don't know how to write code, but Claude does, and he does a pretty good job.
Yeah, I like it. And I think the magic of that is there are things that it's worth sort of like sharing. There's also things that like, at some level that turns into just, probably a bit too much. But I think you found the right balance for the right moment.
Okay, Kevin, that was a fun one. The image I can't get out of my head is the no vendors involved guy, and his AI turns out to be two outsourced call centers manually shipping WAV files back and forth. A human factory wearing an AI costume. One question, what's your stack? And the whole thing falls apart.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, there was an LLM somewhere in there, but like the fact that it was like run through a bunch of people was kind of funny.
All right, Kevin, what are the founder mode top 5 from this one?
Yeah, I mean, the what's your stack question is like the best disqualifier for like an AI leader right now. If they don't know what they're doing and can't explain it, like you should question the sort of decision there. And I think build the nervous system, not the brain, right? It's really the core of like, are you building the interconnected pieces of like some business into the actual foundation AI model, whatever you're using? I mean, number 3 speaks right from your heart. I mean, really, it's that taste and error correction. Those are the moat that you really want to like defend and build. 2/3, number 4, two on-ramps to AI at first, right? You either improve what you have or connect into things that are sort of starting the process. And then I think finally, AI drives the cost of everything to zero. And so then the human premium is going to go up, right? So it's like all of these things sort of like are interrelated, but are going to shift kind of, in comparison.
If this one made you rethink what real leverage is, send it to a founder who's chasing that shiny version.
And subscribe to Founder Mode. We keep bringing you the operator version, not the LinkedIn version. That's it for today. Because the money was never in the brain. It's in who wires it into the real world.